Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, O Lord.
As Jesus was passing through a field of grain on the Sabbath, his disciples began to make a path while picking the heads of grain. At this the Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are they doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath?" He said to them, "Have you never read what David did when he was in need and he and his companions were hungry? How he went into the house of God when Abiathar was high priest and ate the bread of offering that only the priest could lawfully eat, and shared it with his companions. Then he said to them, 'The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. That is why the Son of Man is Lord, even of the Sabbath.'" The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Dear brothers and sisters, good morning.
Good morning, Father.
Among the issues and the concerns of society that the Lord had to combat or face during his time is known to us as legalism. Legalism means what the law says, we follow to the letter. Ano yung sinasabi ng batas, dahil ito'y legal at dapat gawin, na iniatas nito, dapat yun ang sundin. So this is where the contention has been, as described to us in the gospel that we have just heard from Mark chapter 2, verses 20 to 28. What happens? Ano dapat mangyari? Shall we stick to what is written according to the law? Or can we interpret it in a loose manner na meron namang pagkakataon para yung tao makahinga at bigyan din siya ng pagkakataong gawin niya yung nararapat. The problem that the Lord encountered here was that the Pharisees were so legalistic that they attacked him and his disciples because the disciples, as they were passing on a field of grain, it was a Sabbath. They were picking the heads of the grain. Namimitas sila ng mga bunga, noong mga nakatanim na roon na siguro ito yung mga wheat, siguro ito, wheat field siguro ito. And the question that the Pharisees posed to the Lord is, "Look, tingnan ninyo, bakit yung inyong mga alagad ay gumagawa lalabag sa batas? Why are they doing unlawful, which is against the Sabbath?" And the Sabbath, by the way, is a day that is described to us as the day of rest. God made the world, and He created everything on 6 days, and on the seventh day He rested. For the Jews, the Sabbath is understood to mean from Friday sundown up to Saturday sunset. So yun po yung kanilang interpretation. And if you are going to be in Israel on a Friday evening up to Saturday, wala hong ginagawa mga tao doon. You could never practically enter a store or what that is run by the Jews. Sarado because that's a day of rest for them. So you are not allowed to do anything, because that is the day of rest, that is the Sabbath. That's the strict interpretation of the law, the legalistic way of looking at it. And what is the response of the Lord? Anong tugon ng ating Panginoon? Sabi ng Panginoon, "Have you never read what David did? When he was in need, he and his companions were hungry." And what did David do? Pumasok doon sa templo, when Abiathar was high priest. They ate the bread of offerings that only priests could lawfully eat, and he shared it with his companions. So David, at that moment, was in need, and so were his companions. Gutom sila. But the Sabbath law says araw ng pamamahinga. Don't do anything against the law. And the situation that David was in demanded that he take food. Otherwise, magugutom sila. And so in the end, this is what the Lord wants us to learn from this experience. Ano sabi ni Lord? The Sabbath was made for men, not man for the Sabbath. That is why the Son of Man, referring to himself, is Lord even of the Sabbath. Ang araw ng pamamahinga o batas tungkol dito ay ginawa para sa tao. Hindi ang tao ginawa para maglingkod doon sa batas ng araw ng pamamahinga. Kaya naparito ang anak ng tao dahil higit pa siya sa batas nitong araw ng pamamahinga. So that's, I think, something that we have to think about. Sometimes we are so caught up with legalism. At dito naman sa atin, the common thing that bogs the mind of, especially devout Catholics, is the Sabbath law, the Sunday law, the Sunday obligation. Yung pong Sunday Mass, 3 lang ho yung ino-oblige yung mga Katoliko. Only 3 days of obligations, holidays of obligations. December 25, January 1, and December 8. Yan po yung 3 na pwedeng, na hindi mo dapat i-miss yung mga misa. And I'm told that one of the priests not here, but in America, saw this Filipino couple. They had been coming to church every day. And after the Mass, after several weeks of doing it, the priest was so intrigued by this couple. So, pagkatapos ng Mass, kinausap niya sila. I noticed that since you came to this parish, you have been attending Mass every day. And the priest was a little bit surprised. And you know the answer of the couple? We come from the Philippines, and me and my wife have been doing it. We're devout Catholics. Hindi na nakakibo yung pare. Because not so many people really go to Mass every day. Aminin natin yan. The normal way of practicing the faith is really on a Sunday. But that is to say that you can be better, you can do more. It is not what the law says that couple was observing. They feel, and dagdag nung mag-asawa, sabi nila, Father, if you are not going to eat every day, what will happen to you? The priest laughed because he knew what they were talking about. The Eucharist for them is the bread of life. Kung ang katawan mo, pinakakain mo, araw-araw, 3 times a day or more than that, how much more is our soul? And that's something that we have to understand. Man is not made for the Sabbath. The Sabbath is meant to serve man. And whatever obligations we may have, let's remember, the most important thing is not really interpreting that law legally or in a legalistic way, but how can that serve man to the fullest? Jesus, the divine healer, have mercy on us. Saint Anthony of Egypt,
Pray
pray
for
for
us.
us.